GM, welcome to another episode of Make It Rain presented by Metaverse HQ. We are headed into NFL Week 13. Time keeps flying by, and I am joined once again by these three legends, Jake, JJ, and Theric. Gentlemen, how are we doing this fine Friday morning?
Doing good, doing good. I mean, last night's game was kind of an obvious one for the winner. I think Theric pulled through a good score there, and I'll throw it over to him.
Yeah, last night went pretty well. It seemed like the plays did not seem like there was a lot to vary, but everybody seemed to be playing it way too safe. I think most people jammed Josh Allen into the captain spot because Stephon Diggs was only 18% in the captain, and then Allen was 33%. It's just kind of ridiculous that he was that high owned. But I mean, I guess you got to take it a little bit better or a little bit different, get a little bit different. You also had Devin Singletary not being played very much, and it seemed like everybody just kind of went with the optimal or some variation, or if they didn't have the cards, they just kind of threw whatever was in there and hoped that it stuck. But yeah, I got 10th place last night. I was the second in the second highest scoring train. Ended up scoring 10th in the rare Fiat Frenzy last night. Was part of that second highest scoring train. The one that beat me was one that swapped out Devin Singletary for Mac Jones. But everybody had Stephon Diggs in the captain. And I felt it was a pretty chalky lineup. I didn't take any real time thinking about this lineup or building it. I didn't have much time, so I just made a Diggs lineup, a Josh Allen lineup, and a Ramondre Stevenson lineup. But I think the Josh Allen lineup had Gabe Davis, and the Ramondre Stevenson had these four players. It was just Stevenson and the captain. So I didn't feel like it was that much, like it was going to get that high. I was just hoping for a minimum cash with the players that I had. And I get the top 10 in it because people don't like playing Stephon Diggs and the captain. People want to play Josh Allen. They want to play, or they want to get really sneaky. They want to put in a Tyquan Thornton, or they want to put in some weird player that play the Buffalo defense. Because I think the Buffalo is just going to roll over and just absolutely destroy New England. It paid off, and I was just surprised at it. That's the one thing I can say about this lineup is I felt it was pretty chalky, and yet it got me 10th place. I was second in my train, so we stood. There's only 5 players, but we see that serial number still matters. I think the highest scoring lineup had a score under 100, and that's the difference in about $750. But you really don't have to go that off the wall to win most of these. Every once in a while, you'll get some weird player that just has a game. Isaiah McKenzie would have been a good pivot for it, but nobody really the absolute nuts lineup had James Cook in it, and nobody really played James Cook. And the ones that did didn't have really anything special. But this lineup, you swap out Devin Singletary for James Cook, and you win. And that's usually what it takes in these showdown slates, because you're not, you only have 4 slots. You know who the highest scoring players are probably going to be. And so you just kind of got to get a little bit sneaky. And I didn't even get that sneaky, but James Cook, or swap out Singletary for Jacoby Myers, or someone that has the potential to be the top 4. But you got to remember with the top lineup having Mac Jones in it, that because there's so few positions, a lot of times a 2 quarterback lineup is going to do really well just because those 2 quarterbacks have such a high floor. And then you just got to pick the 2 skill players that are going to do really well. Some games you'll have on slots that you want to do. You want to do a 3-1 build, and then the opposite team doing a running back or something a little bit more creative. But you don't have to go for the $200 player like you do in regular DFS, just because there's they're not going to have the ceiling.
Yeah, really great points, Derek. And we've talked about it, me, you, Jake, Poop, many different slates, right? One that comes to mind is the Eagles slate, right? You don't have to get much different, right? Because people are just playing Jalen Hurts at the captain spot because, why wouldn't you play your $1,100 player or at elite or $200 player at rare or much higher than every other player at the captain? But just putting Terry McLaurin at the captain is different enough. Or playing two Washington players, right? And you see that here. Playing two Patriots players is different enough. Or playing Diggs at the captain. Same thing with the Ravens showdown game against New Orleans, right? Just Kenyon Drake at the captain. No one's doing that. No one did that, right? And so you don't have to get too different. I think that's where I got to remind myself sometimes because I definitely got too cute yesterday. I was playing, I think, Isaiah McKenzie and someone else that was low owned just because I wanted to get different with Allen at the captain spot. And it just, you don't have to get that much different to win these.
And I think part of it is the fear because I know it personally when you spend, and you talk about it all the time, JJ, but when you spend $100, $200 or elite, you're spending $1,000 on these cards. You're so scared to put anybody risky in it. You want to get that money back. And so if you're playing a Josh Allen line, you don't want to play that risky guy. You want to guarantee that cash. It's really hard to just play it where it's like, I played this stupid play in here. I played Jacoby Myers. I played Isaiah McKenzie. I played someone like that. And if I had just played the chalk, I would have done better, but you're usually not going to win anything. But it's just, it's even worse than regular DFS. Regular DFS, you put the $5, $20, $100 in, and you try again next year. But if you're spending $1,000 on a player, then you're just so scared of taking those zeros, not cashing with them, that you don't want to put players that are going to be absolute boom or bust, even though in the long run, that's the right way to play it.
Exactly. And one thing, sorry, go ahead, Poop.
No, go ahead, Jay. Please finish your thought.
No, one thing, that I've started to do is like, if I want to get cute, like I'll try to do it at, rare or lower, like just because it's a lot cheaper than the elite, just so I can get that itch out. Unless I don't have those players, then I'll play it at elite. But it lets you like just kind of tier down your exposures to certain players. So that way, like you can be like, all right, at least I have it in rare or core, and you can still win a decent, prize. Like $1,500 at rare and $1,000 at core. So.
Yeah, excellent points, gentlemen. I think that's all very helpful, and I think it kind of puts in perspective. You have your week-to-week decisions, but even within those week-to-week decisions, you still have to keep broad perspective on the rest of the season outlook for some of these players as well, just to make sure that you're getting max value in terms of what you're purchasing on the marketplace and things of that nature. So. All right, well, that was a great review. Thank you very much, Derek. Getting close again, sniffing that finish line. It's gonna come one of these weeks for sure, but nice to put yourself in position late in the game last night, Derek. Nice job, man. Another item that DraftKings has worked into the Reignmakers mix is these kind of special event contests. We saw the Holiday Flannel Millionaire Maker contest during Thanksgiving. They've expanded that into a holiday sweater contest as well, into, I believe, the Christmas slate. It doesn't have the grandiose prize pool that the Thanksgiving one did, but a nice little separate event for us nonetheless. Jake went ahead and did some analysis of this contest. It's still a little early. We're still a couple weeks out, but just an initial first look. Jake, did you want to go ahead and let us know what you're seeing with this contest here so far?
Yeah. So for an overview, it's on Christmas Day, and the contest is actually the same amount of games as the past flannel contest. So there's a lot of similarities where they play like a noon game, a 4:30 game, and a 8:30 game. So we can kind of take what we learned and saw from that original contest and apply it to this one. Especially in terms of, a lot of similarities in terms of like the supply of the players. The big difference is obviously like Poop said, the prize pool. The Thanksgiving one was about $2 million, and this one is 400,000 total in prize pool. So that's about a fifth of the prize pool of the Thanksgiving Day slate. So we can kind of do some quick analysis here and anticipate player prices of similar players would be about a fifth of the price as that slate as well. For instance, one that I like to track is Tyreek Hill to Steph Diggs, since they were, both like that, the clear alpha receivers on each slate. So tracking those prices, and right now the prices just across the board are pretty high. I would say higher than what they will be, closer to lock. And I say this because there's several other things to focus in here too. We got 6 weeks left of the regular season, but there's only 3 weeks left once we get to that slate. So about half the value there, or half the games there at least, are lost in value on these cards because you can't play them once that slate starts up. So it kind of depends on how you want to play it. If you want to do buy now and try and snipe these lower serials, and you can still play them for these next games, or if you want to wait, I can. I feel pretty confident that the prices are going to be going down a little bit from here at least until we get into that holiday slate. So if you are looking to play this Christmas Day slate, I would personally hold off right now unless you see some great deals on the marketplace, and to really get involved.
Yeah, excellent. Appreciate that overview. Always worth taking just a little bit of look ahead, especially for these specialized events, and then see where we can find the edge in the marketplace. And it ain't cheap all the time, but if we can find a couple values along the way, I think that goes a long way in kind of how we construct our lineups there. So appreciate you touching on that, Jake. Anyone else have any final thoughts there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, thanks to the NFL for somehow putting the chalkiest games as the first game both times. So at least we know for both right? I think one of the good things you can do is just buy the backup quarterback from the later games, and they will inevitably spike going into the games because people will put dead lineups in, right, just so that they can late swap in later. And we saw it with Tyrod Taylor. Like, oh my God, I wish I was here when he dropped, because I think he was going for $5-6 and he got all the way up to $40 for each of his cards. So just something that you can focus in on and just do for some market movement.
Yeah, good stuff. I think along those same lines, as we transition out of the segment here, one thing to look ahead to is the rest of the season and how we are planning to not just play the slates, but play our portfolios. I know we've mentioned it many times, and it's a big sentiment around the Reignmakers community, but it is a marketplace game at the end of the day. I think there's a couple different paths you can go down. One is continue to sell into some of these showdown slates and week to week slates, or continue just to hold onto your portfolio to make the best lineups you can week to week as well. Maybe there's a balance between the two. JJ, how are you approaching the rest of the season here? Anything you're targeting, anything that you're specifically looking to mold your portfolio around? How are you approaching it?
So I decided maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, because I was pretty much in profit, pretty cleanly in profit at that point with my portfolio, that there was 2 options: sell and then just kind of play week to week, just like 1 or 2 lineups, or go for the glory, just keep trying to win, right? And I decided to go for the glory, and I just keep buying, man. With the weekly drive and the franchise snapshot each week, I'm getting probably $100-$200 a week just from that. So it's pretty nice. Just kind of padding the bankroll a bit there. Just I find myself taking more and more shots week to week because the player prices, they just keep dropping for these players that are not making the playoffs, right? Like Garrett Wilson was $140 last week. The running backs on Washington were about 100 each, and Garrett Wilson's like 270 now. I bought Derek Carr at like 200. He's like 400 now or something. It's just like there's a lot of good places to take shots, and the prize pool is the same, right? It's 100K to first each week in Elite, and I'm just finding myself entering more and more lineups because it's like, okay, if the players are going to keep being cheap, then I can enter, another lineup for like $100, $150, and then if it pops off, I can late swap around it, and that's just going to be my strategy going to the end. I expect these non-playoff team players to just keep getting cheaper and cheaper, and then you can somehow get up to 30 lineups, and it gives you a better chance of catching that one-off play that spikes. Like your Zay Jones, or last week it was Brian Robinson, right? I almost had it with Garrett Wilson. I had Antonio Gibson with him instead, but if I had that in the early slate, it was an easy path to first place. But that's what I'm hoping for week to week. That's how I'm playing it.
Yeah, man, I'm similar too. That's it's tough. I think I told myself that I wasn't gonna keep buying players, and then I keep buying players because the prices are too good, man. And like you said, I mean, the prize pools aren't changing every week. Like there's still, I don't know what it is, like $1 million each week in prizes across all the prize pools. So, as long as you have one lineup that can hit, it could pay for the rest of your season, which is, I don't know if that's the best mindset to have.
It's the right one.
It's a low chance to
it's the one I have to have because I'm not in profit yet. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm going for as well here. So I'm kind of just doubling down, like similar to JJ, and I feel like we have a good strategy as well going forward, that it feels plus EV to double down, based on all we learned, and because this is such there's a lot of strategy that goes into reignmakers, and also a lot of execution during game day as well, right, with the late swats. I feel like now that we have the strategy down as well, we have a decent edge over the field as well, and it can really help us recoup that money and hopefully be in profit by the end of the year. And personally, like it is tough to think about what to do like at the very end of the season. Like, do you sell your cards? Do you try and wait before the last game of the season to sell before a playoff team, or do you just hope that Reignmakers is going to give the value to these cards in the future years?
Yeah, we're just too competitive, man. We can't go without giving ourselves the best chance of winning.
That is really
what it is. It's like I can't sell my Devontae because then I think that I won't win, because Devontae is going to win more weeks than he's not, right? And it's just part of that competitive spirit that keeps us going in it, and it's really why we do it.
And I think that's really important for everybody to think. It's like, do I want to compete now and compete through the playoffs? Do I want to keep playing, or am I kind of done? Because at this point, if you're kind of done, if it's not what you thought, if you're tired of not doing well, then it's probably a good time to sell off. There's still people like us that are competing and can't stop buying cards, even though we should. But when it hits week 16, week 17, everything's going to crater. That's not a playoff player. And so getting out now before that happens, if you're fine licking your wounds and going, or if you're in profit, like there's several people we know that are in profit and just kind of done playing, and you just want to walk away with what you have now, then I think it's important to really reflect and decide what you want to do. I know, and additionally, we're going to have those payouts that happen in the off season. I don't think I'm going to sell really any card. Surprisingly, not very many people did either of the franchise booster.
It was nice. It was a nice little payout there.
Yeah, and it was just a weird thing where it's like, how did I jump up so high in the franchise score? And then I realized very few people paid the $50-$100 to boost their franchise 2,000 points, and I don't know if it's just people didn't care or what, but it was like, this was incredibly cheap. Yeah.
Easy.
But because of that, it's like, I'm going to have probably a franchise score that just keeps paying through the off season is what they were talking about. And then, hopefully, it pays throughout. I think it's monthly payments, but, it does snapshots through the off season and, all the way to next season. It does payouts each month.
Okay.
Nice. But yeah, just kind of back to how we're going to play the rest of the season, right? Like in, how we're finding all these players. Like I think our late swap strategy is really on point. And one of the things that, Jake and I talked about is you want to buy these players that aren't completely dead, right? For the late swap. So give you some good examples like Mike White. I had two of them just because, it was a late swap quarterback a couple of weeks, and then, you could sell when he's starting. Just gives you some extra upside, right? Just pay a little bit extra for the maybe $5 or $10 for these late swap players, and then eventually maybe they'll play. And good one is Najee Harris, right? I think three Benny. I still have three Benny Snells, right? And just because they were $10 cheap late swap, and I didn't expect him to ever play, but lo and behold, if Najee Harris gets hurt, Benny Snell's a likely starter there. So
yeah.
And I was.
Yep, go sir.
I was going to say, and I will say that's a big mistake I made in the first half of the season was selling off backups for absolutely cheap, like dollars and stuff like that. Because I'm thinking my mindset was like, well, these will never go up in price. These guys will never play. And sure enough, a month later, the starter gets hurt, and they're the chalky guy that everybody thinks is gonna get all the reps or be worth it. And I could have sold for 10x more than I did just because of injuries and everything like that. Or, with Mike White, we didn't even have an injury. We just had a situation change. And so I think I'll be selling off unless the card is significant profit from what I bought it for, or if it's something I pulled from a pack. I think next year, just because we've seen all these crazy backups and bench players come in and do well and be valuable, I think I'm going to be holding on a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest surprise is Deshaun Watson, right? Like everybody knew that he was going to be playing this week and going forward, and he was sitting there for really cheap forever, and now of course he's starting, and his elite's like 350, his rares close to $100 or something, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's obvious in hindsight. Right?
And the Browns probably aren't going to even make the playoffs too. So you only get 5 weeks of him. Probably, well, they'll probably play in week 18, so 6 weeks of him. And so really, it's like, unless you think he's gonna be the old Deshaun Watson, which we have no idea. He hasn't played in 2 years. But unless you're convinced that he's going to be the guy that you need in like at least 1 week, he's probably a pretty good sell if you bought him early.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Great point.
Good stuff. Yeah, I think one thing that differentiates you guys from everyone else, right? I mean, you have a plan and a process, and these edges only come along every so often. So I think a lot of people will just lean into their projection sources and throw in the best plays, what they think is the best play. But with your guys' expanded strategies and late swap nature and entire process overall, it's just going to continue to put you guys in the right position week in and week out. So it's definitely worth attacking. Again, everyone's going to kind of have their own plan of attack here, but I really think you guys are in a good spot to make some things happen into the end of the year here. We'll see how it plays out, but so far so good. So props to you guys. Appreciate all that fantastic insight. Let's go ahead and jump right into the marketplace this week. We have our weekly gainers and losers that we like to talk through. JJ, did you want to go ahead and jump right into it?
Yeah, thanks, Boop. I think the ones this week are pretty obvious. A lot of new quarterback situations and a lot of slam or smash spots like Mike White jumping up to the top because he got the starting role over Zach Wilson over there at the Jets and absolutely destroyed it right in his first start. And so I think the price is appropriate. He jumped up maybe $330 or so. Getting Minnesota this week, who's not been too good against the pass. So we'll see if this is just a fluke or if this continues on, but big game there. Really jumping up at the top is Jimmy G. I mean, come on, $450 on top of his already inflated price, just because he's,
it's wild.
Probably one of the highest scoring games of the slate. San Francisco versus Miami, they're going to probably have to throw the ball more often. Probably not going to be able to rely on the run as much with Eli Mitchell out. And Christian McCaffrey banged up there, so exciting to see. Derek Carr jumping up. I mean, Carr has just been they've been on a heater over there, the Raiders, and getting probably the match of the week over here with the Raiders versus the Chargers, and we've seen this matchup time and time again play to the over. So exciting one to see over there. Travis Kelce as well for the other game of the week. There's a lot of really good games in this late slate here. You got the Chiefs versus the Bengals. You got the Raiders versus the Chargers. You got the Dolphins versus the 49ers. Going to be a good week for late swaps over there. Jumping over to the side, Kenneth Walker is top of the rare. That's no surprise given that they have the cupcake Rams who are trotting out second stringers and third stringers, clearly giving up on the season over there. Trevor Lawrence, who's got the Detroit Lions. So everything there makes sense as far as the weekly losers. Gabriel Davis, going into the showdown, he's just been too bust over Boom. I think he's only had 2 games above 20 this season, or three maybe. Mm-hmm. So other times he's just going to sink our lineup. So I can see people flocking to safety there. Surprisingly, Alvin Kamara kind of dropping down there. I was shocked to see that, especially with the showdown against the Bucs going on this week. I can't see how they don't rely on him there. But, it just hasn't been producing in the last weeks, although been facing some tough matchups. So it might be a good buy over there, as well as some of these other losers, A.J. Brown and Amon-Ra. Still have good matchups, but just haven't been seeing the same production outside of Amon-Ra, who absolutely exploded last week. And then here's a market snapshot where we look at the momentum set floor, because usually that's the cheapest out of all of the sets. And no surprise here, just kind of seeing playoff teams getting priced up and good matchups getting priced up. I think the only non-playoff player, potential playoff player in here is Ramondre Stevenson. And that team is still very live for the playoff hunt, although more unlikely than not. But just Jimmy G at the top of the elite, Josh Allen, Kelsey, Diggs, Jacobs, who absolutely destroyed and is probably just going to continue to smash throughout the rest of the season. Jamar Chase, who's coming back from injury and then getting the Chiefs, probably one of the higher scoring games. Mahomes, Jefferson, Geno Smith, and Jalen Hurts to round out the elite prices. Mm-hmm. So thanks, Boop. That's just kind of our market snapshot this week.
Yeah, great rundown there. Appreciate it, man. Good to always take a look there. Jake, did you have any overpriced, underpriced players that you had your eye on into this week?
Yeah, I took a little look at the market here. I like to focus on the wide receiver position, just because that's a bulk of what we're playing in our lineups. And I'm going to go for a guy who I think is a little bit overpriced right now. He still is a good play, I would say. But I think it's going to be a limited sell high window that we have for him, and that's Josh Palmer. He's 165 in elite, $19 in rare, and $4 in core. He has been really good, with the injuries that the Chargers have seen, with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. He's had several games with 10 targets or more, and he's been producing as well. He had like a 30-point DK game 2 weeks ago or so. But Mike Williams he's not coming back this week. It doesn't look like. Maybe a decent chance next week. But when he does come back, that role that Josh Palmer has is definitely going to take a pretty big hit. And the amount of upside that you really want out of these players is pretty capped, once Mike Williams comes back. And obviously they could get hurt again, but I think this is a good opportunity. He is decently up there now in price after his couple big games that he's had. I think this is a good opportunity to sell high on Josh Palmer here. And then underpriced, I'm going to go with DJ Moore, actually. A guy who we've, people were drafting in, the third round, fourth round in fantasy, and at the beginning of the year, expecting him to be a solid high end wide receiver 2 kind of guy, and he still has the talent. I don't think anyone denies that he has the talent. He just it's been the shaky Carolina Panthers offense that he's a part of. But I feel like he's underpriced right now. He's $89 at elite, $9 at rare, and only $1.25 at core. I mean, he's like basically minimum at core, and he's a really good player, and he's now that he has Darnold at QB, that's, over his career, that's who he's performed the best with is Sam Darnold. I think he has a nice schedule as well. He's also getting priced down right now because they are on a bye week this week. But if you did want to kind of look ahead, or maybe wait until this week locks and then spend money on him, however you want to play it, I still think he'll probably be a good deal. But after that, he has a nice schedule. with Seattle, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Tampa Bay, New Orleans. All those teams are not imposing at all for wide receivers.
Absolutely love the DJ Moore call. I might pick one or two up just because, man, that guy can smash any given week, right? And doesn't matter who his quarterback is, like you said.
As long as it's not Baker.
Yeah, as long as it's not Baker, right?
As long as it's not Baker, yeah.
Slot
exactly.
Sam Darnold right in, and he scores over 20 this week. Like, holy cow, just talented guy, and love the call there. For overpriced players, for me, just gonna go with Jimmy G. Just $1,000 at Elite, just absolutely dumb. Never gonna get there. Just outside of that 1 week versus Cardinals, and I think they just did that to prove a point, right? Like, oh, this guy can throw, but against one of the worst pass defenses of the league, and no deep balls either. But anyway, let me not get into my 49ers are overrated rant because that'll take 30 minutes. But
I'm right there with you. With the 49ers are overrated, but
yeah, but they just didn't release the remaining supply on him and Geno Smith as well. So just can't see paying up for him that much. Play him up if you have to, but even then, it's pretty overpriced. As far as underpriced players, there's a couple that I like this week. Michael Gallup is one of them. About $100 at Elite. Probably $15 range at Rare, and then cheaper at Core. But this guy's getting a ton of the air yards, just like he used to back before he was injured. And there's a couple of deep balls that he got in the Thanksgiving game, and that could have easily changed the slate if he caught him. But I'm liking seeing the action that he's getting over there, and I think that that will continue to trend up as the Cowboys play some more competitive teams going forward, as well as into the playoffs. But another one that I'm looking at as well, and this one's probably not. I don't feel as comfortable about, but Adam Thielen probably at $110 at Elite. They're going to be in the playoffs, and what we see, I think, from the Thanksgiving game is that if they need to score, Kirk's going to spread the ball out, right? He's going to throw to multiple different guys, and he's always been like that throughout his career. It's not just going to be consolidated into Justin Jefferson. So I like it in the double stack situation where you think that he's going to need to throw the ball a lot, and if he's going to score, it's going to be to multiple of these guys, him or TJ Hawkinson. So I'm liking his price.
All right, great stuff. Derek, did you have any players you want to touch on here? Overvalue, undervalue?
Yeah. So first of all, overvalued player for me is DeAndre Hopkins. He's around $15-$16 in Core, still 80 all the way up to $120 in Rare, and it looks like he's at least 500, if not more, in Elite. And normally I wouldn't say this, but we saw with Marquise Brown back, his target share dropped dramatically. There might be one more game where he can put up 25-30 points, but the Cardinals aren't making the playoffs. It's almost a guarantee now that they won't make the playoffs. With Marquise Brown back, he's not getting 15-16 targets a game. And honestly, the Cardinals offense isn't that great. And so I do not expect him to be in many winning lineups. I think he can put up 15-20 points, no problem, but I don't see him putting up a 30-point game, at least while Marquise Brown and James Conner are back, and this offense is not really trying to push the ball downfield. So he's not severely overpriced. He's still playable, very playable, but just I wouldn't buy any more of him as of right now. My underpriced guy right now is Christian McCaffrey for the same kind of reason, is that we saw with Eli Mitchell back, he had lost a lot of rushing production. He was getting kind of being part of a group, and Eli Mitchell is now out 6 to 8 weeks. So he's going to get probably 90% of the rushing production. I know they might bring in Tyrion Davis-Price or someone else, but I doubt they use him like they use Eli Mitchell. Eli Mitchell was their favorite running back before Christian McCaffrey. They really trusted him. I don't think they trust Mason or TDP nearly as much. And so I expect Christian McCaffrey's ceiling to be the potential for it to be much higher now that he's going to get the vast majority of the rushing share. But he's right now he's only $750. In core, he's about $40 in rare. In elite, he's only $400. And I know he's a superstar, and so people get nervous about superstars. But the 49ers are making the playoffs. It's pretty much guaranteed they're going to make the playoffs. And you want the guys that can put up 30, 40 points, that can beat the other superstars. And now that Eli Mitchell is out, I think Christian McCaffrey's back in that group again.
I love it. I didn't even see his price at elite. It's $375. It's kind of nuts, especially for a playoff bound player. Might pick up an extra share there, depending on how the late swap situation pans out. Because that's a good one. Love it. Definitely losing a lot of the snaps to Eli Mitchell, like you mentioned, but with him out, just can't see them not feeding him the ball, especially when they need to keep it competitive, right?
Yep.
For sure.
And against the Dolphins, they're going to need to keep it competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a good show me game for both those teams, really. But good contrasting styles for both those teams.
What about you, Boop? Players you're looking at, maybe to sell or who are overvalued and undervalued?
Yeah, one guy I did have written down. We did touch on him quickly, but there's some caveats to this one. Not a playoff team. They even have a bye week upcoming. But coming out of that bye, Alvin Kamara sets up real well into the end of the season here. You get the Falcons, Browns, a tough matchup versus the Eagles, and then the Panthers to end the season. So there's some opportunity there for him maybe to have a ceiling week here into the end of the year. I know he's had a couple slow weeks here, but when he is right and that offense is humming along, he's going to be the centerpiece and is a nice chess piece without the superstar tag. So a little bit of a shot in the dark there, but $7 in core, 24 in rare, 250 in elite. So maybe some room to grow there, but I think the production could be there in some of those late season matchups if you have the proper expectations in mind with how everything sets up there with the bye week and the tough matchup versus the Eagles. So that's one guy I had in mind there.
Yeah, I want to throw another one in there. Zeke Elliott at $135. I mean, they got the showdown against the Colts, whatever. That's not why I'm putting them, but they do have the Texans next week. Cupcake matchup, and we've seen them just willing to pound Zeke with the ball whenever they need to just grind out the clock or keep the ball rolling. And I don't think the Texans can stop the run at all, as proven throughout the season. So good speculative pickup, $135, playoff bound team. I think that's a good buy. Probably cheaper at rare. Let me just check real quick. $16 at rare, and then at core it's $5. So I think that's a good.
Oh, if he's only $16 at rare, I'm going to pick up a few shares of him.
You got to, man. I think so. I mean, I think it's a good way to play next week, or even sell into it. People will be like, "Oh, Zeke against the Texans, come on!"
And God forbid a Tony Pollard injury, and suddenly Zeke's a bell cow back again. So
right. Even though Pollard is clearly the better player, but Jerry's world, he's gonna face of the franchise over there. So
he's got to justify the amount of money they paid him.
Exactly.
So. It's amazing the politicking that goes on there, right? But it's right. I mean, you can see plain as day. It doesn't take much to see how much more explosive and Tony Pollard is and what he means to that offense. I think overall is just it goes without saying that he is the guy they should be leaning on. But for reasons unbeknownst to us, that has not transpired the way we have liked on a regular basis, at least. So great stuff there, guys. Lots of meat on the bone there for everyone to digest and find some undervalued players to maybe seek out in the marketplace and fine-tune your lineups heading into the slate. All right, gentlemen. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit of a deeper dive into this upcoming slate and just see where Vegas is looking at for points and some of the totals and our favorite stacks. Derek, did you want to go ahead and lead off here?
Yeah. So my favorite stack of the week is probably a Jacksonville Jaguars stack for a couple of reasons. there's a lot of cheap players, even that you can still buy their cheap cards. You can get Zay Jones pretty cheap, Marvin Jones pretty cheap. And Christian Kirk, it looks like Travis Etienne's going to be back. And Trevor Lawrence has shown that, like, when he's pushed, he'll really throw the ball some. So they're starting to look like they're really coming together as a team. There's easy bringbacks if you want to do that with Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can do the awful Jamal Williams if you think he's going to vulture all the goal line touchdowns. And then if you wanted to be super sneaky and he actually does play, you could do Jamison Williams or hope that they give DeAndre Swift more touches. So there's a lot of ways to stack this game. But I like the Jaguars as far as the main stack better. The other thing is, because it's one of the few 12 o'clock games that you like, you can make some good late swaps based on how that does. Rather than worrying about your main quarterbacks and everything like that. You know how your quarterback did. You know how one of your wide receivers did. And even more than that. And so you can decide whether or not to scrap that game or not. Whereas some of the later games, it's going to be a lot harder to judge whether or not you're in a good spot.
Yeah, I love that, Derek. Especially with the 1 o'clock and a swap into the later ones. Like, I think the Eagles Titans one is one of my favorite ones to stack this week. I'll have probably 4 combos there, like Hurts Brown, Hurts Devontae, Henry Brown, Hurts Devontae, and then if any of those pop off, I'll late swap, and if not, I'll just abandon it. Just if they don't score anywhere near like what the superstar should be scoring. There's a lot of superstars in the late swap, and so it'll be pretty clear to see, like, 20 points from Hurts is not getting there this week.
Yeah, good shouts there. I'm always going to have my eye on. It's pretty easy picking, but the Dolphins offense, only because even in these tougher matchups, regardless of what you think of that San Francisco defense, I think it's pretty well warranted. And they've been playing pretty good. I think they can be attacked a little bit on the perimeter, and you just know where the ball is going to go with the Miami offense. So if it does pop off, I mean, you can say with almost 100% certainty it's going to be Waddle and Tyreek that are going to be a big part of that. So I think you're going to have a couple rotations of. I don't think you're playing Waddle and Tyreek in the same lineup, obviously, but I think you can have a couple rotations between the two of different variations of lineups with Tua to Waddle, Tua to Hill. The bring back is a little trickier on the San Francisco side, just because they do spread that ball around a little bit more. They've got a couple injuries, so we'll see how it shakes out. But obviously, in your Tua and Waddle stacks, you can run the superstar back with CMC and see how that goes, or throw in some Ayuk, Debo, or Kittle along the way as well. So a little bit more of a scatter shot, but I overall like the upside there.
Yeah, and you guys didn't ask for it, but here it is. Like, I think the 49ers defense is completely overrated. I think they're good. Sorry, not completely, but I think they're overrated. Like, their strength of schedule has been very, very easy. They've lost to the Falcons. They lost to the Chiefs. Anytime that they faced an actual challenging team, they've kind of folded in. I think this week they're going to be tested very much so, and I'm not scared at all. So I'm definitely going to have a lot of shares of Dolphin stacks this week going into it. And if I'm wrong, I'll be here eating my words next week. But I just think the 49ers defense is not that good.
Yep.
Yeah, no major disagreements there. I think they've got some sexy pieces, but yeah, in some of these bigger tests, I think they've yet to really show that they are championship caliber. And there are areas where they can be attacked.
Yeah, especially their offense, man. I mean, their offense, like, it's kind of like Jekyll and Hyde. Like, they can't get the ball moving. They don't know how to use Debo. They're probably their best player outside of McCaffrey on that offense. Just completely confused on how to use them. Just can't scheme them open, or just got to run them the ball a bunch of times, and then Jimmy G just can't throw deep. Again, willing to eat my words. He's going to throw for 500 this week, and I'll be on here, tail between my legs. But willing to flag plant that. I mean.
I've never been a believer of Jimmy G. I always think that everybody, all the talent around him, is able to hide how bad he actually is. And
excellent talent. Oh my God, Juwan Jennings is, as a wide receiver 3, he's just been climbing up my rankings, like just good receiving core, great tight ends, great running backs. Like what else?
Yeah.
A good line, good defense. It's like, how is this team not 12-4 or something?
And yet they barely struggled to eke out a win versus a team that's dead.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Jimmy G, right? Everyone sees the pieces around him, and they are sexy. But I think the narrative when he came back was, it took a couple weeks, but Jimmy G's a good quarterback now. Jimmy G is always going to be more of a game manager than a game winner. He's going to be, a little bit, going to have to rely on the pieces around him a lot more. He's a guy that's going to check the ball down, look more short, intermediate. The deep ball game is never going to be exactly where his strength lies, and that's just what you're going to be with Jimmy G. I don't think anything talent-wise has changed with them. Just pieces around him have gotten a little bit sexier. Obviously, the Niners are a hot pick for a deep playoff run, so I think that plays into it. But perception is a little bit more than reality here, I think, with Jimmy G, and we'll see how that comes to fruition this week. But I will say also with the Niners, as sexy as some of those pieces are, hey, man, sometimes there is a little bit of too many cooks in the kitchen thing going on as well. And it's like almost like an NBA, right? If you have too many superstars on one team or too many good players, right? Are there enough minutes to go around, right? Are there enough balls to make everyone not just happy but productive, week in and week out? And that's another thing to consider here as well with that offense as a whole. So
we're really seeing that with Deebo this season. Deebo has just taken a huge step back, and it's not because of his talent dropping. It's just because there's so many more pieces to throw to. He's not the focal point of the offense anymore.
Exactly. But shiny pieces nonetheless. Yeah. There is some upside there if the weeks do break right. But yeah, I think, food for thought at the end of the day, regardless. I won't be stacking any Jimmy G in this game stack. It'll be Tua and then, a piece from the San Francisco side mixed in, however you want to go about it.
Yeah. And then for late swaps, like I love this Raiders game. I mean, Raiders, they're coming together, man. I don't know. The offense looks good. Josh McDaniels, doing some work there. Obviously, it's primarily through two players, right? Jacobs and Adams. But man, every time they've met the Chargers, it's just been a really good game. So excited to swap them in and see this one.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the Bengals. You don't really have to worry too much about Joe Burrow. If you want to swap him out, then that's fine. But you have Jamar Chase, that's no longer a superstar. You have T. Higgins. If Joe Mixon clears protocol, you have him as well. Just three really good players in a game that they're going to need to score points. And the Chiefs defense has been decent, but they're not world beaters. And there's also a little bit of a beef between Jamar Chase and one of the defenders on Kansas City right now going on Twitter. So I think Jamar Chase is going to show up and try to prove that he can beat this defense pretty easily.
Oh man, that's funny. It's not Breland, is it? Is he still on the Chiefs? Is it Breland?
No, it's
I think it's their safety, one of their safeties, right?
Yeah.
Because is Breland? Where's Breland now? Yeah, I think Breland is on the.
It's Justin Reed.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there you go.
Chief safety Justin Reed is basically talking about Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase said, "Just wait."
Yeah. So funniest thing I found out, I think like a couple seasons ago, Rashad Breeland. I think he's a free agent now, but he was on the Chiefs last season. I think. He would make mixtapes about receivers on the other team, and I think you can find them on Spotify, like just diss tracks about all these receivers. It's the most hilarious. So if you have free time, feel free to check that out. I was like, it's got to be Breland when you're talking about.
Definitely have to check that. Maybe we'll make that our theme song. Just some Bashad Breland
it's a lead-in next
theme
week.
Tracks. Yeah, exactly. Duly noted.
But late swap is tough this week, man. I think it's a fun slate. That pool is like double what it was last week for players.
I think it's going to be a really high scoring slate too, and so like you probably don't want to get too cute as far as the plays go, because you're probably going to need 25 30 points from every single player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I'm doing this week, I'll have two teams that are completely dead in the early slate, and then just kind of late swap just two full teams if the early games just pop just die, right? Like if no one scores above 25.
So as an aside from this segment, but last week I had some amazing late swap options because I had way too many cards and not enough what do you call it? Superstars and not enough core players. And so I had just like a couple of lines that had just all rare cards that had nobody to swap to. And I was like, well, I'll just play them because there was it's like, well, Garrett Wilson, I still have him left over, so I'll just stick him in, and DJ Moore, I'll stick him in as well. These guys aren't going to do much, but we'll see what happens. And of course, I'm able to, the other pieces I'm able to late swap off of, and it's two of my highest like potential lineups because Garrett Wilson and DJ Moore go off, and I'm able to just move those lines into like a Kyler Murray line or something like that. And so having more, like just having some, like you said, some dead lines that you can just take the pieces out of that have that aren't all early or all late. They have a mix of both, where you can just pick and choose. Was kind of a revelation last week that's like, wow, this is actually really good. I had way more to choose from my late swaps, where most of the time it's like, well, I could switch between Jacobs or Aaron Jones, but
yeah. And it's like, I think if you had Jacobs, right, you would have spiked probably in one of those lines. I think I remember we were talking about it. But I think just keeping yourself live is good every week, especially in the last 2 weeks where it's been low scoring. I think I did the math last week. If you just late swapped the perfect lineup last week in the 4 o'clock games, you would have won the elite contest, right? And that's kind of crazy because I don't think that's happened most weeks, if not all of them. Of course, yeah.
I was going to say, and the other issue is late swapping is a huge pain in the ass. And so most people won't do them. Like I think both you and Jake last week had a deadline because you couldn't finish the late swap. And so that's just incredibly frustrating. A lot of people won't risk that. And then because it takes so much time, in regular DFS, you can upload a CSV. You can rerun the projections and upload the CSV in a minute. And it takes so long to do it on Reignmakers that you have to be doing it by hand before the fourth quarters are even done in the previous games. You're doing it right as the fourth quarters are starting. And so you can't really tell, that's plenty of time for some player to catch a long bomb touchdown and have, I had several lines where it's like it completely changed in the fourth quarter.
Exactly. T. Higgins.
I was about to say my T. Higgins lines I had shrugged off for dead when I started determining my late swaps. And then he gets that long bomb, and then Treylon Burks gets some more catches, and I'm like, oh, that mini stack I had is like suddenly a contender.
Exactly.
Like, well, crap. And so you're panicking 10 minutes before, and it's like, okay, I can choose 1 or 2 lines to mess with. But it's just so much stress. A lot of times you don't have the players to swap, and you get that shock 5-10 minutes that suddenly a deadline is now a live line. And so late swapping is a huge advantage. It's such a huge edge right now if you can design something to do it with some sort of efficiency. And so creating every opportunity possible to give you a way to win because you're able to late swap off of half a line is something I think a lot of people aren't doing for the reasons I spoke of earlier.
Yeah. And it's just like you said, it's just a huge edge, right? Like how many times have we in the last maybe 3 weeks, like we've got like top 25 scores just because we late swapped, right? And within striking distance of finishing in first. I mean, I think yours the other week where Jacobs, if he scores a touchdown, was a prime example. But we keep putting ourselves in the position, and that's all we can ask for, as Poop always says. And one of these weeks is going to pay off.
Yeah,
absolutely. Let's just keep letting Vegas lead us to the light, keep following these totals as much as we can and surround our lineups with the proper pieces. And yeah, it's going to come together even more so here into the end of the year. But lot of juicy plays here this week. A lot of good games to attack. A lot of good plays. So it'll be an exciting week of football. And we'll see how it shakes out and see what we can bring home. Great stuff, fellas. So I think just to kind of start closing into the show here, our weekly lineup challenge segment. This is an area where we like to show, viewers who may be new to Rainmakers that you don't necessarily need a huge bankroll or be a Rainmaker whale to have fun or have success in Rainmakers. We started this challenge with $50 at the beginning of the season. They've made some adjustments along the way, and due to injury or production, we've made some adjustments as needed week to week. This will be a fun little segment this week because we're going to kind of fine tune our lineup to gear it up to hold it in place for the rest of the season. Derek, did you want to go ahead and talk through some of the adjustments we've made and kind of our mindset here into the end of the year?
So this is kind of the final leg of what we're trying to do. We've been building bit by bit a little bit of a bankroll, and so what we did this past week, we had to take Thanksgiving week off from playing just because all the games were spread out so much. But over last week, we sold off some of our weaker pieces, and we looked at the remaining schedule and looked for a team that could play the most weeks, because right now we only have a few dollars profit, and we want to get at least that $50 back, even if these go to zero. And so the goal now is to get at least 5, if not 6 weeks of good production from our team. So we built a line that's got really strong potential, a good high ceiling, a good floor, and we're going to ride that for the rest of the season and hope it hits hard. So that we can make the initial pay or money back as well as some profit. So this is the team that we're going to go with. We still had the Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyreek Hill from the previous weeks, and we sold off Jared Goff. We sold off Alvin Kamara, and we sold off Aaron Jones. And with that and the prize money, we were able to buy Dalvin Cook, Tua, and T. Higgins. And I believe there's only one showdown slate for this team in the last 6 weeks. And so hopefully we should be able to, at least 5 weeks, knock it out. We also have Marquise Brown sitting in the wings. And he's back and playing full, so we can swap out a player if we need to for that showdown.
Love it. This lineup looks sexy just compared to what we had before. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, we're going to see you in a commercial with Kevin Hart, man. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, well, if we get first place, and I guess it's going to get really interesting. So,
love it. Yeah, this lineup is like, I think kind of a culmination of everything we're kind of building up to especially to hit it hard and into the stretch run here. I mean, this lineup is probably about as sexy as it gets for us, through all the variations we've had this season. So really excited to see how this plays out.
And they're all playoff players outside of Amon-Ra, and that's and they could get there, like you said, 9% chance, I think.
Yeah.
And so really set up well for the offseason too.
Yeah, that's another thing is this line, at least we might have a few more weeks worth of play time just because of the playoff bound players in it.
Great stuff. Well, we will see. This week will be its first true test. A lot of upside, a lot of room for some points here. And even if this week doesn't work out the way we want to, I think over the course of the next few weeks into the end of the season, this is going to have a real shot to make some noise. So looking forward to sticking with it.
Can I just say, though, the 1 week that the first week you move off of Trevor Lawrence, and like the second week or so, he spikes. And obviously it's not with Christian Kirk we had, but man, just the timing, right? You just can't time these things.
Of course.
That's the thing. It's like the weeks Trevor Lawrence spike, it wasn't with Christian Kirk. It was with Zay Jones. It was with Marvin Jones. It's so frustrating because it's like, this should be the stack that goes off for 60 points. And it's nope.
and Zay is such a tough guy to click, even with the volume there, the target volume there. It's just like, man, I'm not going to.
Well, he's in
I'm going to, yeah.
Second 100. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say he's in his 5th, 6th season. We know what he is. He's just kind of a mediocre player, but he's having these spike weeks that it's just so frustrating because it's like, we know this guy isn't very good. He's replacement level. It's amazing that he's lasted this long in the league, and then he puts up just randomly 30 points. And
second week in his whole career of 89 games with over 100 yards. So I'm willing to just throw that in the bin there. And I would like Say Jones just as a slot guy, kind of the guy to get your first downs and cheap DFS play. Right, no upside, but yeah, I think he got 20 of his 30 points in the last drive there. So.
Right, exactly. I mean, hey, props to that coaching staff. But yeah, you're spot on there, JJ. He's just a super athletic possession receiver that they can line up inside and kind of move the chains with, and that's really what he's been all his career. Props to Doug Peterson and crew getting the most out of him, this season. But yeah, Lawrence has been a little frustrating, for sure. I mean, it's good to see the progress. It's just a guy that taken some shots on throughout the course of the season, been off, and of course the spike week happens when you're completely off him. Just the way it goes sometimes, though. But I'm happy to, yeah, exactly. Happy to see him progress as the season goes along. At the very least, though, because the talent is there, and good things are going to be coming for him here in the future as a professional football player. So great stuff. All right, well, let's go ahead and roll into our DGen segment, our pack rip segment. This week, usually Jake will host this segment. Jake had to drop off real quick, had something come up. No worries there. We're rolling right along here. And this week, let me go ahead and share my screen here. This week, we're going to roll with another holiday pack. All right, we're going to test our luck, keep dumping the EV down the drain. But here we go. Feeling it. The RNG gods are with us. I'm feeling it, right? It's feeling a little warm, it's the holiday season, maybe Christmas can come a little early for us. So let's see how it goes.
Let's hope so. Yeah.
Tyreek sweater. Let's go.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Let's go ahead and open this bad boy.
Come on, Rainmaker. Come on, Rainmaker. Ooh, Elite. Okay.
That's not bad.
We've got an Elite. Elite. Let's start from the bottom.
All right. We got a sweater card. It's a good start. Oh, wait.
Sweater Melvin.
He's not even on the Broncos.
He is not. It's okay. We'll, I don't know what the hell we're going to do with that thing, but here we go. Okay, we'll take Mixon.
Yeah,
32.
Much better.
32. Metcalf.
Okay.
Justin Jefferson.
Of course it's the previous slate, but
yeah,
that's okay.
It's okay. We'll take that. The Elite. And that was a pretty good trio right there. We'll take those at the end of the day. All things considered with the packs. The Elite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll take that, baby.
Let's go, man.
That is
21.
That is playable with a 21 serial. Hell yeah. All right. RNG gods.
He might be the top running back on the slate. Just because they're force feeding him the ball, and finally him and Dubs against the Dolphins, and they're going to have to keep it competitive over there. So, of course, you open a good one when Jake's not here. He's the cooler. So
it's all right. We won't let him know that, and hopefully this passes some of that RNG luck over to him for the next one for sure. But yeah, we'll take it, gentlemen. That was a nice little pack rip there. Some nice players, all outside of Melvin Gordon, very playable, and got a little lucky with the Aaron Jones Elite. So feeling good about that one. All right. Well, that was exciting. That was a great way to kind of end the show here. As always, appreciate everyone tuning in to another episode of Make It Rain. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe on all of our socials. We always enjoy the engagement. And go ahead and think about joining MVHQ. We are a NFT Web3 community with lots of sharp people from within the industry, builders, collectors, investors, traders, talking all things NFT, crypto, Web3, and most importantly, Rainmakers. We have a very active Rainmakers discussion forum. We're in there daily, talking through the slate, talking through edges, and strategy along the way as well. So feel free to check us out on OpenSea or any NFT marketplace that you prefer, and give us a look. We'd be happy to have you, welcoming all newcomers. On that note, thank you all again for tuning in. Good luck with the upcoming slate, and let's make it rain.